and the customer's needs and capabilities and more. As a team, I'm just going to go through what I highlighted. Sure. After the team understands problem space, come up with clear problem definition. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. Then you diverge. You might have everyone generate ideas called Crazy 8. So everybody participates in the design sprint, not just the designers.
That's what you've been doing the last couple of...
Yeah, so everybody gets in there and does some whiteboarding and stuff. Even if you can get the CEO, you get the CEO in on it. So anyhow, I thought you'd find that very interesting.
So that's exactly what you've been doing on our one project, where you have basically enlisted everybody that could possibly be in the room to participate in the design, right?
Absolutely.
Design sprint. That's what that's called.
Yep.
Wow. Is there any way do we formally incorporate that, or is that just something we just acknowledge as okay? That's just part of this process. Everybody, I need your attention for the next half hour.
Right? Yeah, right. No, the whiteboard's ready.
People might be thinking,
you got it zoned and everything. Look at that.
It's all happens.
It's continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Applied continuous improvement. Yeah, everybody. I mean, everybody participates in the design sprint. And sometimes you do it on whiteboard. Sometimes you do it with like little, blank pieces of paper. And once you come up with an idea and you start to, come up with the screens, everybody comes up with a screen. And I've done this. And what happens is that you get all these different ideas across the board, and it really expands your solution set.
How could we change the way we do things around here, or improve the way we do things around here in this capacity? I mean, I've done projects where I didn't do this, and basically I left it all in the hands of the application developer. Just, whatever their creativity was, they came up with a thing. Unfortunately, I've worked with pretty creative people, but I was limiting myself in that capacity, and maybe putting too much on their plate.
I think we should ask Harry about this, but I think that if you get everybody involved at this level, tabula rasa, it's very schematic. You're not, this is green and that's blue. You're just laying out screens. It goes a long way to helping the application developer, A, see the breadth of solution space, and B, to see how different people interpret things.
So could it start off as simple as, okay, everybody, we need an application to track the placement of children in foster care.
Right.
Here's the homepage.
Right.
What's going to be on it, right?
Yeah.
And so people start throwing out what needs to be on the homepage.
Well, that's a way to do it. And another way to do it is, okay, sketch what you think needs to be on the homepage. And everybody pulls out their own, and they do their own. And then you put them all up and compare them.
Oh, interesting. I see the drawback to this is that someone that's shy with a good idea. So there's going to be someone that's going to have an idea. Well, you need to have A, B, and C. Well, maybe there's someone that's kind of reserved
right.
that also thinks we need D,
right.
But it looks like the verdict's in, right?
To a degree, and then you have the hippo effect.
The hippo?
Highest paid person in the room.
Oh, right. Or the loudest voice in the room, right. Or the most authoritative.
Yeah. But we want them to participate, but it's like an equal participation without them kind of weighing in on it. Now, it's interesting in this process, what they do is later on, they have various voting, and towards the end, the project manager and the CEO get extra votes, so to speak.
Oh, interesting.
So they have just a little extra leverage, but they'll still see, one or two ideas accumulate most of the votes.
So a way to do this is bring some blank paper, pass it around and say, everybody, here's, draw a picture of this, give them crayons.
Yeah, well, markers or
whatever it is.
Pens,
yeah, it has to be simple, right? Just anything, right? And then you put it up on the board, and then could you then rank it? I've done exercises like this before. Give them sticky things and put the one you like.
So in fact, that's what they do. They have what they call unlimited voting. So you get unlimited stickers, and you can actually say, I give this 3 stickers because I think it's that good.
Oh, really? And then it's anonymous.
And then it's anonymous, right. And you want it to be anonymous. You don't want anybody's name next to this. You just basically get it all up on the board.
Everybody gets, so if there were pieces of paper, and then everybody had an unlimited number of, small little things, all the same color, right? I'll just put as many as you want. I'll crowd up there, and you come back, and then how would you weight it with the CEO? Or would you take the results and give that to the CEO?
No. What you do, the first round is basically figure out which ideas gain merit, you narrow the pack down, sort of like what they're doing with the Democrats now, right? And then there are a lot of good people up there, but only one can go forward. So you have to narrow it down. And then once you've narrowed it down and discussed the ideas, because a lot of that is what is the development process, is when you start to understand, oh, this screen has this and this screen has that, then the next round that comes out incorporates the best of those ideas.
So I noticed you did something interesting that was similar to this when we were trying to come up with our logo, right? Was it the logo?
That's exact process that I did.
You came up with, as a designer, you created like 5 or 6 samples, right? Was it 6, 5 or 6,
right.
or 3 or 4?
And they were across the board. They were very
different. And what I noticed was interesting. Well, then you sent that out to everybody that was involved, and then we responded back. But what I noticed was really interesting was, as a designer, you gave no guidance. You didn't say, this particular one, here's the 6 items, but this particular one has the best color scheme, in my opinion. You just let us all. I
wanted to see how you reacted.
Yeah.
I know what my choices were, but I wanted to see what yours were.
And your choice never really, for lack of a better word, the meaning of the word, what I mean by bias here, your professional bias didn't show through. Even as we got narrower and narrower and narrower, you were like a commenter on the sideline saying, well, it's neck and neck between Jolie's pick and this other guy's pick, right?
Well, yes, but you have to remember, I'm the one that basically
made them all.
I made them all. And I learned very early on in my design career, there is not a single card in the deck that I do not like, because inevitably that's the one that people will choose. So I got to like them all. There's some I like more than others, but
every horse in the race was one of yours.
Every so often, there was a little, I would do certain things, and once it came down to the final 2, I was the tiebreaker, so I would come in and break the tie. Right. And obviously, I would.
So what would you
favor of
do as a designer? What would you do as a designer if the ideas came up and the clear winner was something that had for some reason everybody liked it in the room, but as a professional designer had some audacious design flaws?
It tells me something. If everybody in the room likes something, there's a reason for it.
Even if it's audacious.
And my job is to find out what is that reason. Why do they like it so much?
Because it may be that you can correct that, because maybe that's not the thing that's drawing to them. Maybe they're just suffering that because it's giving them something else that they want.
Exactly.
And you can just make it better. And you don't go out and would you go about it in initially in a non-critical element to say that you guys all like this design, but it sucks because of this? Would you say, what would you solicit? What is it you like about this?
I wouldn't.
What would you do? How would you proceed with that? If you saw the clear winner was something that you didn't like for some reason.
Okay, so the first question I'd ask is, okay, what about that do you like?
Okay.
And have them start to describe it, and then do a series of questions. Okay, so you like it because of such and such. Okay, so what's the underlying reason there? And I would try to drill down until I really understood what was driving that decision.
And as a professional designer, probably I would imagine that you would discover that it's something else about it. Maybe it's like got a field that is really the all-important field that everybody recognizes. We need to know the child's birth date or something like that. Or I don't know what it is. They just made that up, right? Yeah. Everybody loves the fact that the birth date's in there because the current process doesn't have the birth date, right? Mm-hmm. Then you, just as a value add, simply say, oh, and by the way, this is great. I see we have this here. But by the way, this one element here, this color scheme doesn't work too well. How about if we had it was blue instead of green? And then that's incidental to them.
Yeah, and usually when you get down to aesthetics, you're long past the design. The design sprint is just schematic, high level, just like we did here. As crude as this.
You're right.
It's not. At that point, you hand it over to the developer, and the developer will take it over. Actually, if you had a really good workflow, you'd have a UX team and a designer basically work out higher fidelity screens, work out most of those issues, and then prototype it.
I get it. Aesthetics will come later, right?
Yes, the aesthetics are layered in towards the end. So, and hopefully you have somebody who is a good designer and understands, color harmonies and design balance, as well as the user experience of it. Placing buttons in a way that function well, and hopefully give the experience a measure of delight.
I get it. This is really going to be helpful to me to recognize those steps. To bring this into a real world example. Imagine that the U.S. Army contracted us to come up with a next generation fighting vehicle, right? What we would be looking for are characteristics of a fighting vehicle, right? You know, four-wheel drive, armament, range and capacity, longevity of the engine, things like that. If someone threw out it needs to be purple, or maybe that's not it, or maybe it needs to have flares. All right, I can't think of it. If it's an aesthetic piece, we can deal with that later. What we're really after initially are the mainline design pieces, right? Is that what you're saying?
No. No. At this stage, it's way. First off, what I said earlier, what is the problem? What's the problem?
Okay, good question. The problem is that military, let's use our example, that the U.S. Army is finding that their current fighting vehicles are suffering high casualty rates in the field.
Okay. What is the purpose of the vehicle?
The purpose of the vehicle is to survive and destroy as long as possible, and to be able to withstand enemy fire.
Okay, I would say the purpose of the vehicle is to transport the troops to whatever objective they need to accomplish, and it might be destroy, it might be just relocate them, and do so safely, so they get there in one piece.
There you go. That's the purpose, and it's not doing that. It's been suffering, and landmines are blowing them up and stuff.
Okay, so
and they're being detected on radar.
Right. So now you start to drill into like why they're not getting there. They're not stealthy enough. They're showing up. They're too easy to spot.
And the undercarriage.
They're weak. They're vulnerable in certain areas from where their weapons are. They're exposed.
Gas tanks exploding.
Yeah. Sounds like there's a range issue. Sounds like it's a reliability issue. Sounds like there's maintenance issues.
Okay.
So we haven't even talked about a wheel, engine, or anything else. We haven't gone there yet.
Oh, wow. I was going too deep too fast. Or not too deep, but too
deep. You're solutioning. You know what you do? You do what you see your teams do all the time. You're starting to go to the solutions, but you haven't defined a problem yet.
I was. Oh my God.
So we have to really clearly understand. So once we understand that, then you can start asking some other questions like, does this thing have to be a land vehicle? Question mark. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it hovers. Maybe it's something that drops in. Maybe it's subterranean. I don't know. I mean, you want to go really crazy. When you start solution, you want to get as wild as possible, and you don't shoot down anything, because inevitably what happens is that you have all these different ideas, and out of those diverse ideas, there's some type of synergy takes place, and all of a sudden the team realizes, wow, we never thought about this particular way of doing it.
I get it. I think, so let me throw that back and tell me if I got it now. So now, assuming we've defined the problem, the business problem, on one board, clearly define the problem, our current transportation vehicles are vulnerable and weak and suffering unnecessary casualties in the field, or unwanted casualties in the field. The solution then, we give out the pieces of paper, we're going to come up with all kinds of stuff. It could be a better personnel carrier. It could be a hovercraft. It could be personal devices on wheels, like one boards or whatever, or skateboards. Who knows, right? Hover skateboards, whatever. That's what you're saying, right? These again, and that's the design brainstorming that's going on.
Right.
And then we rank those.
Then you rank those, and you start to see what which ones have merit and what the pros and cons. Then at some point you whittle down, and at some point you're going to prototype these things, and you're going to test them.
That would be the minimum viable product, right? After we had defined, so with this now, let's say we had 5 ideas up there, from hoverboard to vehicle to skateboard or whatever it is, and then we rank it, and then we see those rankings, and then we come up with maybe, and then using our current process, which is the project proposal, maybe we get top 3, right?
Right.
Ranked. Then we throw out the pros, the cons, the assumptions, all that kind of stuff, right? And the cost. And then we layer that into the project proposal, right? Yep. We have 3 options that have been showed up by the team, the subject matter experts, and then that's when the sponsors' ranking comes in, right? Because they are then weighing in by selecting one based on all the facts.
Yep.
We did it. That's how it works.
Right. So, but the proposal is actually the end result of all the work that's going in between. And the team, hopefully, you get as many people at various levels involved in this level at this stage, because it does a number of things. Aside from you getting a really good solution set, it gets a buy-in. Yeah. when they participate at that level, they understand all the issues. They see all the discussion. They start to get why this A, B, C are the three ones that ended up being.
They were part of the
solution. They were part of the solution.
That's
so,
right.
So there's an emotional component too.
That's right. That's right. You're right. They have their stakeholders at that point. That's right. Versus my strategy in the past, which is customer says they need a widget, guy that builds the widgets make something, and then show us the prototype next time. Right? Nobody's a stakeholder. Nobody had buy-in. No one makes suggestion. We're leaving it all on that one person, and that's too bad in two ways. One, because it limits us, and two, because it puts undue pressure for the solution on a single person.
And it also, you take a lot of time going somewhere. Where's the test? How do you know it's valid?
Right, right.
How do you know you have the right solution to begin with? So one of the things that with the project proposal is a start, and then the next phase, and we're jumping ahead a little bit, but it's really important to test these ideas. Okay, we have the idea of the one wheel. It's it's supposed to be nimble and fast, and it'll spot the mines and go around. Okay,
it's just so light it goes right over the mines. Yeah, who knows?
Whatever. But we test that. Okay, so we build a good enough version of that to test. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. With all the bells and whistles. Enough of it to test the capabilities, and no more. Because we just want to validate our hypothesis.
Minimum feature. What do you call it?
Minimum viable
feature.
Okay, we'll go to a feature level.
We're back to the feature level.
We'll go to a feature level, and you just want to test that to see if it works or not. And sometimes it's not going to work, which means I had the wrong. My hypothesis was off.
And we didn't spin up the whole project.
And this is the key thing, Kurt. You're testing the hypothesis.
Just like a good scientist would.
Exactly. All right. Again, Musk is doing this now with his Starship Hopper. He's one new engine. All the thing does is take up, take off, move over a few hundred yards, and land. That's all he wants to do. That's all he needs to do. He's got all the other stuff working. He just wants to test this engine. Is that going to work? Okay. Then he's going to scale it up.
Right.
He's going to, and so that's what we want to do with our development process. Instead of building the whole thing out, and then going out there and say, oh, gee, that doesn't work, now we got to go back and change. We've just used up a developer for a year and a half. There's 3,000 hours that we've just used up that we'll never get back.
That is right. It's a far more efficient model. You've just touched on one of the key cornerstones of our modern civilization, which is the fact that science and technology cooperate in the following way, as you just described. Science develops hypotheses, which are then tested, falsified. Right? And if they can survive falsification, then technologies can begin to develop off of that. But we don't begin, smart industry does not begin to develop the technologies until the hypothesis has been proven, or not disproven at least. Right?
Yeah, right. Or disproven.
Or disproven, one way or the other. But we don't build the technologies until we do the falsification. So with business or whatever we're doing here, likewise it's the same. We have a feature we're after, right? We need to test the viability of that feature before we begin to explore the production of technologies or solutions based on that, right? Same model?
Yep.
Wow. Well, I think we've just uncovered the mechanism. We've just superimposed the mechanism of science and technology into the project management life cycle.
Well, people are doing this, and I think you and I are kind of.
We're catching up.
We're catching up. Well, let's put it this way. I think since we're in the public sector, this is traditionally the last organizations to get any new technology.
Yes.
When Obama came into office, they were still using stuff that was just, So I think government is finally getting a chance to, refresh its systems, and hopefully it'll refresh its process and methodology as well.
So I guess this goes to show that we can indeed teach old dogs old tricks.
Old dogs, old tricks. Okay.
All right,
Ages and ranges and ugly head again.
It was plural.
That was plural. No, I understand that. I'm your senior. I know that.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, thank you for joining us for another chat with Juan and Kurt, and I appreciate learning more. I'm going to take these ideas and move them out in today's projects, in today's meetings.
No, you and me both.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.